Okay. Hey. Hi. We're back. We're back. We're back and better than ever. We are alive and kicking. We are the human race. We are the metamodern mind. We are all alone in a room together. This is going to be a continuation of the out loud readings and commentary and musical stylings of me commenting and reading Anthony DeMello's The Way to Love. We're going to be reading Meditations 7 and 8. And then I'll play a song, and it's going to be beautiful. So let's do it, friends. See if we can take in what is being presented to us. It ain't easy. What are you doing? Why are you blinking? Why are you blinking? Does it all mean? What does it all mean? I don't know. We're going to keep going. Hey, whoa! Hey. Nothing new there. Aye! Come on. Come on, baby. Alright, we're here. So the one we are up to now is bringing the poor. No, we did that one. The blind see. Alright, Anthony, what do you got to say to us today? For judgment I came into this world, that those who do not see may see, and that those who see may become blind. A little swap action. It is John 9:39, for those of you playing along at home. It is said that love is blind. But is it? Actually, nothing on earth is as clearly sighted as love. The thing that is blind is not love, but attachment. An attachment is a state of clinging that comes from the false belief that something or someone is necessary for your happiness. Do you have any attachments, people or things, that you falsely believe you could not be happy without? Make a list of them right now before we go on to study exactly how they blind you. We're making lists, people. Think of a politician who has convinced himself that he will not be happy unless he gets political power. His quest for power coarsens his sensitivity to the rest of his life. He barely has time for his family and friends. Suddenly, all human beings are perceived and reacted to in terms of support or threat that they are to his ambition. And those who can neither threaten nor support he does not even notice. If, in addition to his craving for power, he has an attachment to other things like sex or money, the poor man has become so selective in his perceptions that he can almost said to be blind. Everyone sees this except the man himself. This is the condition that leads to the rejection of the Messiah, the rejection of truth and beauty and goodness, because one has come to be blind to perceive them. Now think of yourself listening to an orchestra in which the sound of the drum is so loud that nothing else can be heard. To enjoy the symphony, you must be responsive to every instrument in the orchestra. To be in the state called love, you must be sensitive to the uniqueness and beauty of every single thing and person around you. You can hardly be said to love what you do not even notice, and if you notice only a few beings to the exclusion of others, that is not love at all. For love excludes no one at all and embraces the whole of life. I love you, fly. Now fucking die. Yeah, give me my space. Can you swat something to death while loving it? Possibly. Okay, I'm embracing. I'm doing it. I'm doing it, people. Stop for a while now and see how your attachments drain life's symphony no less than the politician's attachment to power and the businessman's attachment to money have hardened them to the melody of life. Or look at the matter in another way. There's an enormous amount of information that's continuously flowing in from the world through the senses, the tissues of the organs of your body. Only a small part of this information reaches your conscious mind. It is like the infinite amount of feedback that is sent to the president of a nation. Only a tiny fraction finally makes its way to him. Somebody does the screening and the processing at the president's office. Who decides what will finally make its way to your conscious mind from all the material that is pouring in from the world? 3 decisive filters. First, your attachments. Second, your beliefs. And third, your fears. Your attachments. You will inevitably look for what fosters or threatens them and turn a blind eye to the rest. You won't be interested in the rest any more than the avaricious businessman is interested in anything that does not involve the making of money. Your beliefs. Just take a look at a fanatic who only notices what confirms his or her beliefs and blocks out whatever threatens it, and you will understand that your beliefs are doing to you what your beliefs are doing to you. And then your fears. If you knew you were to be executed in a week's time, it would wonderfully concentrate your mind to the exclusion of everything else. Yeah. This is what fears do. This is good. They irresistibly rivet your attention on some things to the exclusion of others. Okay, I'm going to think about that for a second. Fear as a focuser of the laser of attention, yeah, that is true. In my more fearful moments and states of being, there is a vigilance to the state of attention. Openness is something I'm at a place where differentiating between openness and vigilance is tricky, and what feels like an effortful self-concentration to be open to the sensory information coming from the world, and putting my attention in that direction instead of the conceptual and symbolic space of making imaginative meaning out of my experience. I'm pulling in from the senses instead of the conceptual artifice, and telling the difference between openness and vigilance is difficult for me. There's a discomfort with the act of feeling and tasting the moment. Tasting what the moment tastes like tends to not taste great. And then there's some aversion and the retreat to conceptual space. And it's like, am I even being mindful and open, or am I just in like a fear state? So this is an important question for me to ask in an interesting framing that I've not framed this way myself. So this is, repeat that is what fears do. They irresistibly rivet your attention on some things, some things to the exclusion of others' part that we want to pay attention to. I want to make sure this thing's still recording. It is. This is great. We're doing great. Okay. You falsely think that your fears protect you. Your beliefs have made you what you are, and your attachments make your life exciting and secure. You fail to see that they are actually a screen between you and life's symphony. It is quite impossible, of course, to be fully conscious of every note in life's symphony. But if your spirit becomes unclogged and your senses open, you will begin to perceive things as they really are and to interact with reality, and you will be entranced by the harmonies of the universe. Then you will understand what God is, for you will at last know what love is. Look at it this way. You see persons and things not as they are, but as you are. If you wish to see them as they are, you must attend to your attachments and the fears that your attachments generate. Because when you look at life, it is these attachments and fears that will decide what you will notice and what you will block out. Whatever you notice then commands your attention. And since your looking has been selective, you have an illusory version of the things and people around you. The more you live with this distorted version the more you become convinced that it is the only true picture of the world, because your attachments and fears continue to process incoming data in a way that will reinforce your picture. This is what gives origin to your beliefs, fixed, unchanging ways of looking at reality, which is not fixed and unchanging at all, but in movement and change. I'm going to read that again. This is what gives origin to your beliefs, fixed, unchanging ways of looking at a reality that is not fixed and unchanging at all, but in movement and change. So it is no longer the real world that you interact with and love, but a world created by your head. It is only when you drop your beliefs, your fears, and the attachments that breed them that you will be freed from the insensitivity that makes you so deaf and blind to yourself and to the world. Okay. It's hard to know what to make of all this. It's hard to know that you get it and that you ignore it. And that is a energy that fills me up nearly endlessly, and not endlessly, but significantly. And I want to ignore everything. There's just so much lack of control. It's really wild. Even just to be engaging, confronting, exploring, navigating actively the maturation process that the world is presenting in front of me as it's like we are giving gifts of the things we need to grow and learn, and we touch those gifts a little bit, and then we put them down for a while, and then we touch those. This is my experience. Touch the gifts, put them down for a while. It's like they're so precious. It's overwhelming. And the sense of goodness and intensity and importance and meaningfulness and dangerousness all really merge for me when I'm looking through a Mello-like lens at my own reality. And I find it just becomes apparently too much, and I'll spend 2 weeks just not going near any of this shit, just doing my work and distracting myself as I feel like it, and it's not hard. There's still growth and connection in my life is lived, but it just hurts so much to grow up. It's just hard to believe. And then you grow up a little bit, and you're like, I think I'm kind of there. I think I'm in that sweet spot of having grown up. And then you get super high and masturbate for 10 hours. And that throws off your sense of thinking you've got the shit on lock. And you go, oh, what is wrong with me? I'm a compulsive addict. I'm a wounded healer. So are you, friend. And together we're going to wounded heal ourselves and each other. And it's going to be really nice once we stop all the, picking up sharp objects on the playground thing. Which we might not. I don't know. Maybe that's, I don't know. I have no idea what is up or down. All right, I'm going to read the next one, and then I'm going to play a song. And then we're going to move on with our days. Heaven at hand. Repent, motherfucker, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Matthew 4:17. Imagine you have a radio that no matter how you turn the knob picks up only one station. You have no control over the volume. At times the sound is barely audible. At others it is so loud it almost shatters your eardrums. Moreover, it is impossible to turn it off. At times it will be slow and it will suddenly begin to blare away when you want to rest and sleep. Who would put up with this kind of performance in a radio? And yet when your heart behaves in this kind of crazy fashion, you not only put up with it, but you even call it normal and human. Think of the numerous times you were tossed about by your emotions, that you have suffered the pangs of anger, depression, anxiety, when in every instance it was because your heart became set on getting something that you did not have, or on holding on to something that you had, or on avoiding something that you did not want. You were in love and you felt rejected or jealous. Yes, I have. Suddenly, all your mind and heart became focused on this one thing, and the banquet of life turned to ashes in your mouth. Mic drop, Anthony DeMello. You were bent on winning an election, and in the din of battle, it was impossible to hear the songs of birds. Your ambition drowned out every other sound. You were faced with the possibility of a serious illness or the loss of a loved one, and you found it impossible to concentrate on anything. To put it briefly, the moment you pick up an attachment, the functioning of this lovely apparatus called the human heart is destroyed. If you want to repair your radio, you must study radio mechanics. If you want to reform your heart, you must give serious, prolonged thought to 4 liberating truths. But first, choose some attachment that troubles you, something you are clinging to, or something that you dread, or something that you are craving for, and keep this attachment in mind as you listen to these truths. I've got mine, I hope you've got yours, and let me just say now, I think I would just die if I didn't have this attachment that I'm thinking about now. I mean, literally, I would just die if I didn't have this thing to look forward to. That's the feeling. Like, to press a button and say, I never get this thing that I'm attached to happen again, it would be like a huge, overwhelming tidal wave flavor change in the moment to moment of my existence. Because some subtle, endless little anticipation would vanish, and I'm not willing to believe that I won't seek this thing again. And so as I speak to you now, I'm a brutish and fiendish Hippocratic liar. And something beautiful in that acknowledgement as well. Just huge capacity for sainthood and sinning. I don't know. All right, here we go. The first truth. You must choose between your attachment and happiness. You cannot have both. The moment you pick up an attachment, your heart is thrown out of kilter, and your ability to lead a joyful, carefree, serene life is destroyed. Yeah. You can sense that I'm a slightly stressed person, and maybe it's because of my attachments, maybe. Okay, see how true this is when applied to the attachment that you've chosen. Am I stressed? I'm sensitive. You're different. The second truth. Where did your attachment come from? You were not born with it. It sprang from a lie that your society and your culture have told you, or a lie that you've told yourself, namely that without this or the other, without this person or the other, you can't be happy. Just open your eyes and see how false it is. So obviously false. He's right. There are hundreds of persons who are perfectly happy without this thing or person or situation that you crave for and that you've convinced yourself you cannot live without. So make your choice. Do you want your attachment or your freedom and happiness? The third truth: if you wish to be fully alive, you must develop a sense of perspective. Life is infinitely greater than this trifle your heart is attached to, and which you have given the power to so upset you. Trifle, yes, because if you live long enough, a day will easily come when it will cease to matter. It will not even be remembered. Your own experience will confirm this, just as today you barely remember or are no longer the least bit affected by those tremendous trifles that so disturbed you in the past. And so the fourth truth brings you to the unavoidable conclusion that no thing or person outside of you has the power to make you happy or unhappy. If this is actually true, we are collectively completely bonkers and totally insane. And our worldviews, which are full of the imagined worldviews of others that probably represent not those worldviews actually, and imagining those other worldviews, imagining your worldviews, mutually mischaracterizing each other's mischaracterizations of each other's worldviews, this incredible, indelible, endless, and infinitely fractal clusterfuck of projecting perceptions into each other. I'll stop the thought now. It goes deeper because I do not want to in any way diminish the realities of societal structures, of cultural structures, of empirical scientific structures, or of internal esoteric experiential structures. These four are all super real spaces. And yet, DeMillo is telling us, since we seem to be a consciousness in a body, part of a larger system composed of smaller subsystems, that from the vantage point where we find ourselves receiving sensory information from the world and creating conceptual and symbolic patterns and narratives about the world. Oh shit, this battery might die. No, we're doing good. Okay. That there is a space in which what Viktor Frankl says cannot be denied. And if we accept this, ultimately, the buck stops with us, ultimately, in the sense that it is the space between our sensory information and our energetic experience and our behavioral output, whatever the whole black box is of us, of the world's data coming in and our reactions coming out. If in there is the potential for pure freedom, then our happiness is assured, independent of the worst of all circumstances manifesting from nature or from our bodies or from our cultures or from our societies. And it's hard to believe. I can imagine a world in which things are so bad that I couldn't be happy. And yet DeMillo says, no, this is not the case. Things cannot be so bad that you cannot be happy. Things cannot be. Too many negatives, double, triples. Okay, let's get this finished up here. And so the fourth truth brings you to the unavoidable conclusion that no thing or person outside of you has the power to make you happy or unhappy. Whether you are aware of it or not, it is you and only you who decides to be happy or unhappy. Whether you will cling to your attachments or not in any given situation. Basically, you have to be ready to die every second. I don't know if I can't figure out any other way to parse it. And then maybe something remains that is not I, that is not you, that is some larger sense of being that is not this particularities of this circumstance. Yeah, okay. As you ponder these truths, you may become aware that your heart is resisting them. If you're watching it happen in real time, or argues them and refuses to look at them. I mean, I'm looking, baby. It just hurts. That is a sign that you have not yet suffered enough at the hands of your attachments to really want to do something about your spiritual radio. Fuck! So I haven't fucking suffered enough to make the change? That's the problem? Probably. Okay. Or your heart has no place. Let me try this again. Or your heart may place no resistance to these truths. If it is so, rejoice. Repentance. The refashioning of the heart has begun, and the kingdom of God, the gratefully carefree life of children, has come within your grasp at last, and you are about to reach out and take possession of it. Oi. I guess I'm resisting a little bit. This song is called Pale Tanages. Hopefully we make it through. You made me to walk over mountains, wade through a dead sea, straight at your enemies, and set my soles on newfound fountains. Just had to keep my feet straight, had to beat the heat away. But I could not be saved, no. Why'd I try to chase into my own tail, fall into an ink, well, fall into an ink, well, and now I'll find my heart is on its right trail. Everybody means well, everybody means well, so hard it burns. My feet have earned a break from drudgery, but they were not meant to be free. We're walking the walk and we're talking the talk. We're tired in this town. We're running around. We're holding up signs. When you roll like a dog in the fog in some cage, with a bird and a song that you heard as you raged at those dogs as they came, tore you apart. Just the same. Sure, it's a good ending. Alright, we're done. I hope, dear internet friend, that this was useful to you, although mostly I realize I'm doing it because it's useful for me.